Gary Parrish, welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. That like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please also do that while you're here. Let's get into it. Big weekend on tap. On Saturday afternoon, we get the bracket preview show on CBS. That's America's most watched network. It's the network of stars. Then later Saturday afternoon, it's the first ever number 1 versus number 2 matchup in SEC basketball history. Number 1, Auburn at number 2, Alabama. So let's take these two things in the order that they're going to happen. Bracket preview show Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, CBS. The selection committee will unveil its top 16 teams based on the bodies of work in place at the time. And I know it's easy to say stuff like, and then everything will change in a matter of hours because we'll start playing games again, which is true.
Except for one thing. Mm-hmm. Auburn will still be the number 1 overall seed regardless of what happens later on Saturday. That's not changing.
I think that's probably true. But here's something else that's probably true. It probably won't change the stuff as much as you might think. Check this out.
Okay.
This is year 7 of the bracket preview show. And in the previous 6 years, 94 of the 112 teams that were a part of the bracket preview shows remained among the top 4 seeds on Selection Sunday. Now, obviously, it's very difficult to go, say, from a 1 seed to outside of a top 4 seed inside of a month. That would take some kind of collapse. I get it. But the fact that history tells us 83.9% of the teams that appear in this show on Saturday are expected to remain among the top 4 seeds when we get to Selection Sunday. I think that would surprise most college basketball fans. Norlander, when you got that email from the research department, did that surprise you?
It didn't. Now I've actually tracked, so I've tracked this stuff as well. To be clear, we have this will be the 9th show. The data that GP just gave you didn't account for 2020 when we had the teams, but we never had a tournament, obviously. I'll do you even a few more. There's never been a 1 seed that wasn't in the top 4 later that season once we got to Selection Sunday. We're a month out right now. 92% of the teams that have been a 1, 2, or 3 seed have remained in the top 4. So if your team is on the 1, 2, or 3 line on Saturday, just keep in mind, like, very, very likely they're going to be a 1, 2, 3, or 4 once we get to Selection Sunday. In 2017, 2022, and 2023, 15 of the 16 teams that were in that top 16 remained entirely, it remained static. There was barely any change from the month out to Selection Sunday. In 2024, last year was 14 out of the 16. There's only been a couple of years. In 19 and 21, we actually had 5 teams swap out. So there is the potential for that to be there as well. But on average, you're looking at 4. If you take every single one that we've had, you're looking at about 14 out of 16 teams will remain in the top 4. They might not be on the same seed line. They obviously might not be where they fall. Like, we're going to get a 1 through 16, and we're going to actually predict this for you right now, folks, and see. And I don't know what Parrish has, and Parrish doesn't know what I have. So we'll see what we agree on and what we disagree on. But just know that in general, that you're going to be able to stick around. Everyone except 1 2 seed has been still in the top 4. There's 7 out of the 28 2 seeds in the previous show have been in the top 4 once we get to Selection Sunday. I got a couple other goodies here, but I'll wait till after we're done our projections. But yes, generally speaking, there's a reason why if you get to, second week of February and you're in this top 4, like, you should feel pretty good. What I don't have, and I wonder if you do, but I'm sure you don't, because this would have been a little bit of a deep dive. I'm actually curious to know the 1 seed on the bracket preview that subsequently was the worst seed on Selection Sunday. I don't have that information. I'd love to know who's in the best spot now that wasn't a month later. And this would probably be a 4 seed. I want to know the 4 seed, maybe a 3, but probably a 4 that subsequently was the worst seed once we got to Selection Sunday. Obviously, every single team that's been involved in this has gone on to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and more recently, over the past 3 seasons, 44 of 48, 91.7%. So the schools you see flash up on the screen tomorrow are probably, with few exceptions, going to be the top 4 seeds in the NCAA tournament on Selection Sunday. You want to try to predict this thing?
Let's do it. So let's do 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12, and 13 through 16. You go first, and then I'll go.
Okay, 1 through 4. I just pulled it straight from the top 25 and 1 as of Friday morning. It would be 1 Auburn, 2 Alabama, 3 Florida, and 4 Duke.
Okay.
Alabama, Florida, and Duke would be my 4 number 1 seeds, with Duke being pushed out west as the 4th number 1 seed.
Okay, so I did this last. I didn't want to go. This will be a fun thing to look at on Saturday, and then yes, to a certain extent, these will have some lingering effects, but we'll play games and whatever. Point is, I didn't want to like spend 90 minutes doing this, so I spent a good 20, 25 minutes sifting through some resumes, looking at it. Auburn and Bama have to be 1 and 2. I don't think there's any argument against it at this point. I have Duke 3. I'm trying to. There's also like what I think should be the case and what I think the committee is going to do, and there can be a slight difference between those two. I have Duke 3, Florida 4. I find it to be very, very, very close. They're both 21-3 teams. Duke's losses have come against Kentucky on a neutral, Kansas on a neutral, and at Clemson, which is a projected tournament team, obviously very, very good. Florida's losses have come at Kentucky in maybe the game of the year so far. Home to Missouri, good team, but there was a home loss, and then at Tennessee by 20. I'm just projecting that the nature of the and I know they routed Tennessee, but I'm just projecting that they're going to split hairs and they're going to have Duke 3, Florida 4, but we've got the same 4 there. What do you got for 5 through 8?
Okay, this is where I started to pull away from the top 25 and 1 a little bit, because last night when I got home from Lubbock, and what a great trip to Lubbock, Texas. Can't wait to get back there. Fabulous game the other night. I just obviously I try to rank based on bodies of work, but then I don't just randomly move things for no reason. There's got to be results involved that cause me to move something. And so you can get stuck in these little weird places. It's never off by much, but I did want to last night just take a fresh look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Working off the top 25 and 1, but not being held to it at all. And like you said, not necessarily ranking these teams in the order that I would rank them, but in the order I think the committee will evaluate them for this bracket preview show. So if you see inconsistencies between this and the top 25 and 1, there's your explanation. My top number 2 seed would be Tennessee.
Agreed.
And I don't have them as the 5th best team in the top 25 and 1 right now, because they have struggled a little bit lately. Mm-hmm. But you just forget recency stuff and look at the body of work. It looks to me like the 5th best body of work in the sport. I've got Tennessee as a 2 seed, followed by, in this order, Houston, Texas A&M.
Give it to me.
And Purdue.
Look at us. Look at us. Same exact order. Tennessee, Houston, A&M, Purdue. Keep in mind, and I wonder how this will come into. I'm trying to do some projecting here. So as a reminder, and we'll talk more about this as we get into March and closer to Selection Sunday. Remember, this year, there's more data points, which I would argue, you can get an information overload, no doubt about it. But in talking to committee members, both on the committee this year and years past, like apparently they do a pretty decent job for the most part of talking about the teams, having good conversation, but referencing everything from KenPom to KPI to strength of record to net ranking and all that stuff. I think some committee, frankly, candidly, I think in plenty of times over the past 10, 12 years, there have been people on this committee that have no business being on it. And I think that they were overmatched for the task ahead of them. But I think overall, I think that the committee is better than it's ever been, with smarter people that get it more, and they take this extremely seriously. And now that we have wins above bubble, which I think is a key metric, and we have Torvik on there, which is predictive, but it still is helpful to help inform this. That's what made this a little bit trickier for me. Like I leaned more on the resume stuff on this one, because frankly, I think that's fair and what we should do. Like the predictives have a role in this, and they should, but I let the resume stuff really guide my thoughts on how the committee would behave. That said, we don't know yet. We're going to see tomorrow and maybe get an explanation or two from the committee chair, Bubba Cunningham, and or Dan Gavitt on CBS at 12:30. So anyway, we're in the same exact order. I didn't think we would. So we only have one difference. It's minor. I've got Duke 3, Florida 4. You've got Florida 4, Duke 3. And then our 5, 6, 7, 8 is exactly in a row. Tennessee, Houston, A&M, Purdue. And to me, I think that is, I would be surprised and need a pretty convincing explanation if you have any other team inside that top 8 that we don't have. I think there's a line between 8 and then once we get into 9.
I agree. My 3 seeds in this order. So my 9th team would be Iowa State, followed by Wisconsin, followed by St. John's, followed by Michigan. My 4 3 seeds would be Iowa State, Wisconsin, St. John's, and Michigan.
Okay. I also have Iowa State at 9. I also have Wisconsin at 10. Get back to them in just one second. I also have St. John's at 11. And then I went Arizona at 12. Michigan's at my next 4. We'll get to that when we get to it. But I've got Arizona at 12. Wisconsin is the team that, as I was looking at this and looking at the resumes, I thought to myself, if you're a Bucky fan, you're aware of this. You follow the Big Ten regularly, you're probably not too surprised. I don't think people realize how comfortable Wisconsin is, unless you're dialed in and checking bracket forecasts like every other day. Folks, Wisconsin is 19-5. It has the win over Arizona. It was a home win, but man, they destroyed Arizona. I actually think the Wisconsin and Arizona resumes are pretty intriguing when you stack them up against each other. Arizona does have 2 more losses than Wisconsin does, but all the Wisconsin wins are completely reasonable. A 3-point loss at home to Michigan, at Marquette. It wasn't close, but Marquette's a good team. By 6 at Illinois, at UCLA by 2, and then at Maryland, which won. Maryland walked into Pinnacle Bank last night. I don't know if you saw it.
I don't. Trust me, I saw it.
The Terps, they walked right the hell in and they strolled right the hell out. Wisconsin has a quality resume to this point. 9th in strength of record, 11 in wins above bubble. 6-5 in quad 1. All of its losses are quad 1. Just wanted to talk Badgers a little bit because they're probably the best resume that gets the least talked about to this point in the season.
Yeah. So I've got them 10th on my list of teams.
Same. We're same on Iowa State, Wisconsin, St. John's 9, 10, 11. We agree. You have Michigan 12. I have Arizona. Arizona 12. Let me flip it. Let me go first, and then you, and then I'll reveal. I've got Kentucky 13. Michigan 14, and this is where it got tricky. I got to figure we're going to disagree on one of these teams. I've got Texas Tech 15, and then I've got Kansas at 16. So my 13 through 16 to wrap it up is Kentucky, Michigan, Texas Tech, Kansas. What do you have?
I went 13 Ole Miss.
Ooh, okay, there we go.
14 Texas Tech.
Okay.
15 Kentucky. And then I went 16 Marquette.
That's Marquette is my second team out. Okay. Oh, if you're watching on YouTube, not a great job on this graphic. You can see our predictions, how they're similar, how they're different. So
I've lost 15 pounds, Nada. You can't get a better picture.
Hey, Parrish, that's the default one of us together. Don't blame Nada. You do look good. You're looking good. Regardless, did a good job on the graphics. So the team we disagree on, and I got to be honest, Parrish, I was looking at it, I was like, Kansas was the one. I've got him 16. You don't have him in. You've got Ole Miss 13. Maybe I whiffed. Maybe that's a major miss by me. And in doing so, does that mean you have 7 SEC teams in your top 16?
I did not even look at that.
Nor should you, nor will it matter. The committee will not count conference. I'm just seeing this in real time here and seeing what you got here. That's intriguing. All right, go ahead. Explain it out.
Well, because that is the type of question you get asked, like when you do radio appearances, like, and how many teams from the Big Ten and how many teams from the SEC? And I have to go add them up because when I'm looking at this type of stuff, I don't consider that at all. I have never once, whether I'm trying to look at the top 25 and 1, top 16 seeds, when I used to do brackets, I would never go, I need another ACC team or I look at resumes and I put them in and I go, oh, and then I add it up. So I had no idea how many SEC teams I put in there. I just was ranking resumes. It is interesting that Jerry Palm has Memphis in as a 4 seed, but neither one of us have Memphis in. Mm-hmm. And it's not because I wouldn't have Memphis as a top 16 team. I've got Memphis 12th in the top 25 and 1. I just am predicting here that the selection committee is going to ding them for 2 reasons. Maybe 3. What is their let's start with the real ones. I'll just keep it at 2. Okay. They have 2 quadrant 3 losses. That's wildly unusual for this level of team.
I don't think, that's disqualifying for me at this stage.
Yeah, I don't know that it's disqualifying. I'm just telling you, I think that's when the committee chair is asked on TV. So what about Memphis? They're going to mention quad 3 losses. Trust me. If Memphis is out, it'll be quad 3 losses. And then the other thing is there's almost no computer numbers to support it. Memphis has a strong strength of record. It's 14th. But all the other stuff, or most of the other stuff, is way outside of the top 16. Net 44, KenPom 43, BPI 42, Torvik 49. KPI does have them at 9. Again, strength of record 14. but I think there's enough there. There's enough not good stuff there, even if Memphis has been incredible this season relative to preseason expectations. I think there's enough not great stuff there for the committee to leave them just outside of the top 4 seeds. They'd be a 5 seed probably.
Okay. I will explain. So you don't have. I'll explain why I don't have Ole Miss in, and then you explain why you don't have Arizona. You don't have Arizona in, and you don't have them in their next 2 out. Now, this could be a big whiff. The reason why I don't have Ole Miss in is Ole Miss is sub 500 in quad 1 right now, 10-6 in quad 2, which is quad 1 and 2 combined, which is fine. It also has seven quad 4 games. So to me, that number of low end competition was why I didn't keep them in. Why did you keep? And I might be off on Arizona, but why did you not put Arizona in?
Honestly, I just didn't get to them. I'm just going down the list, and I'm like here, and then I start comparing, and then I cut it off, and I'm done. But just on your note about Ole Miss being under 500 in quad 1, St. John's is too. So I don't. That's not disqualifying for me.
Yeah.
On Arizona, obviously got off to the 4 and 5 start, but they've been incredible since then. 7 quad 1 wins. I'm looking at Jerry Palm. Jerry's got Arizona as a 5 seed right now, so he and I are in line there. Okay. Truthfully, I got to my 16, and then I knew I wanted Memphis in one of the others, and Michigan State right behind them, and then I guess I got to 18 and I cut it off. I never got to Arizona.
I think you and I are gonna somehow we're gonna miss badly on one of these, which is fine. Whatever. It's a month out till the tournament. Michigan has to be in this. We both have Michigan State as our first team out. It was hard for me to resolve getting Michigan State in after its loss at home against Indiana. Had MSU not lost, it's clearly in the field at this point. I just couldn't get there. If you're wondering on Kansas, which I have in, Parrish doesn't even have in its first 2 out. Kansas is knocking on the door of top 16 status and strength of record and wins above bubble. It's 11 in the net right now. It's also sub 500 in quad 1. It's 5 and 6. Hasn't played as much weak competition overall. And it's 6th in BPI, 9th in Torvik. I think I'm going to miss on Kansas, but I was trying to project what I thought the committee would do. And looking at it, I thought the committee was more likely to put Kansas as the last team than Michigan State or Marquette. And then after that, I had Memphis, but that's interesting. I'm trying to figure out. So we disagree on 2 teams being in, because I have Arizona and Kansas. You have, okay, that's what it is. You have Ole Miss and you have Marquette squeaking in. Why'd you get the Golden Eagles as the last team in?
I'd have, let me pull it up. This was all stuff I just did last night while I'm looking at it. Yeah. But I'd have to look at it.
Let me bring up Marquette.
They're one game above 500 in quad 1, 0 losses outside of the first 2 quadrants. Strength of record is 16. So there's some stuff there to support it, but it's debatable. I will tell you, once I got to Marquette, that is one where I was debating between Marquette, Memphis, and Michigan State, and I went with Marquette, but it wasn't. That's the one obviously because it's 16, but that is the one I'm shakiest about.
Yeah. Kansas, I'm shaky on too. It has a really good strength of schedule, good non-con. It's still top 10 at Ken Palm. It was a toss-up. Interested to see how it gets revealed. And I'm really confident that we're going to be right on the 1, 2, 3, 4. You and I disagree on the 3 and 4 number. And I'm really, really confident on 1 through 8. Like if for some reason you see like an Iowa State or Wisconsin pop in to that top 8 or a St. John's, like that would be stunning to me. I think as you're looking this, if you're watching live or after the fact on YouTube, those top 8, it's got to be those on the 1s and 2 lines.
All right, so it's the bracket preview show, CBS Saturday, 12:30 p.m.
Oh, I got a trivia time for you.
Okay, let's go.
Because I did trivia time. Which team? So there have been 8 previous ones, 7 with the tournament, 8 overall. We'd had one in 2020. Which school has the most mid-season top 16 appearances?
UMass Lowell.
They're in one of our between all the teams that we just had on the screen. It's one of those teams.
So this is year
9. This is year 9 because there was 8 of them, but there were 7 with the tournament. So there have been 8 times previously. So this school has been in 7 of the 8.
Well, go Kansas.
It is Kansas. Your most appearances. Kansas has 7. Duke has 6. Tennessee has 6. Baylor has 6. Gonzaga has 6. Purdue, Houston, and Arizona, Villanova, and Virginia all have 5. There have been 3 teams that have made it the past 3 years trying to go 4 in a row here. Purdue and Tennessee will make it 4 in a row. Kansas might. And then there are a few more teams that have made it the past 2 years trying to go 3 in a row. That's Houston, Iowa State, Alabama, and maybe Marquette. The eventual champion, 5 previous ones have been on the 1 line. The only ones not to be a 1 in the middle of the season was Carolina. The first year we did this in 2017, it was a 2 seed. And then 2 years ago, UConn was not even in the reveal and went on to win the 2023 tournament.
Bracket reveals a preview show, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, CBS. It's America's most watched network. It's Network of Stars. You can also stream it, Paramount Plus, which is, of course, the home of Landman, Season 1. Completely available now. I don't know. Just trying to pay bills, baby. Just trying to promo it. Hey, we're making history Saturday down in Tuscaloosa inside Coleman Coliseum. Number 1 Auburn at number 2 Alabama. We're diving into that next. First, let's get a word from our partner.
Baby, we are gonna start a fire.
From world-renowned clubs
Simply devastating.
to worldwide stars,
Wrexham have done it. This incredible ride continues.
the English Football League on CBS Sports Network, and stream every match live on Paramount Plus.
It's almost here. Number 1 Auburn at number 2 Alabama. First ever number 1 versus number 2 matchup in SEC basketball history, at least on the men's side. Norlander, you dedicated the lead of this week's court report to Auburn, Alabama. So who better to get us fired up? Fire me up, Norlander. Fire me up. Tell me everything I need to know about Auburn at Alabama.
Well, I talked to Oates and Pearl earlier this week. Set up, please go read it if you haven't already. I had a blast building this out, putting it together. I've got not every single one, but I got just a boatload of number 1 versus number 2 all-time stats. When they've met in conference, when they've met in the postseason, when they've met in the regular season. This is the 9th straight time that a number 1 versus number 2 has happened in the regular season. The last time we had a 1-2, if you're curious, that happened in a postseason matchup. It was Carolina, Illinois in 2005. The most recent 1 versus 2 prior to this Saturday, that was Gonzaga, UCLA back in the 21-22 season, I guess it was, or was it 22-23? But that one out in Vegas there was the last one that we had, which was actually, I thought we had gotten one more recently than that. It was 2021, so it was a 21-22 season, and Gonzaga beat UCLA by 20 points. On that note, 43% of the time, 19 of the previous 44 meetings. So Saturday will be the 45th all-time number 1 versus number 2 matchup. That goes back to the 49-50 season when the AP poll began. But 43% of the time, we get a game decided by 6 points or fewer. So less than a coin flip, but on campus, big-time rivals. Very exciting. The SEC has never had a number 1 versus number 2 until now. There's only been 2 times where an SEC team was involved in a 1 versus 2 matchup when the teams were in the same state, and Bruce Pearl has been the coach for both of them. There is this game, and then there is, of course, Memphis versus Tennessee back in 2008. I'll let you know that Bruce Pearl had the team that was the road team in that matchup, and Bruce Pearl's team won. Bruce Pearl has a road team in this matchup, although unlike 08, Bruce Pearl's team is ranked number 1 overall. A lot of anticipation. Talking to Nate and Bruce, they really are they acknowledge and are embracing how special this is. They really are. But both of them brought up to me, we have to play this team again, and we might have to play them a 3rd time and maybe even a 4th time. So we'll see how many chapters this rivalry has this season. But I think it is so perfectly timed that the Super Bowl just ended. We've got the bracket reveal Saturday. The SEC is having its best season ever. Could be the best conference in a single season ever, Parrish. And we are getting the first ever intra-SEC 1 versus 2 matchup between 2 programs that have significantly elevated, been to Final Fours, have won 6 of the past 8 conference and or regular season SEC tournaments. There's just so much about this that feels like it was fated to be, and yet at the same time, it's completely unprecedented. The state has never had anything remotely like this. You've probably heard it plenty at this point because it's an interesting talking point that's been hammered home. Auburn and Bama have never met in 1 versus 2 in football. That's never happened. It's finally happening here in basketball. And as I pointed out in the story, there's no even close second. In terms of the combined ranking of these 2 teams is 3. Number 1, Auburn versus number 2, Alabama. The second closest was last season when Auburn and Alabama squared off. And let me bring up the exact number here because I think it was 26 or 36 overall. They've never met as a top 5 matchup. They've never met as a top 10 matchup. They've never met as a top 15 matchup. A year ago, Auburn was 4th in the country. Alabama was 24th. Combined ranking 28. That was the best ever. So it's a really, really awesome deal, man. I can't wait. It's smack dab in the middle of the afternoon, so you build your entire day around it. And yeah, it's a huge football rivalry, maybe the biggest one out there. But these schools have really upped their game in basketball significantly, and right now they are operating at a super, super high level. I can't wait for the game, man. We've had an amazing season so far, and every weekend has given us reasons to really get amped up. But damn, a number 1 versus number 2. Big picture, will it affect who makes the Final Four, who wins the national title? I don't know. What I do know is stuff like this in the middle of February. We're coming off last weekend when we were on this pod hyped up about St. John's UConn. Well, now we get this. Like it's even better. I can't wait for it. Coleman Coliseum is going to be incredible. I mean, I'm so envious of everyone that gets to go to this game, cover it, see it in person, coaching it, playing it. Really, really special stuff. And Pearl did tell me, like, winning that game in 2008 for his Tennessee team, he said he wasn't sure if Tennessee was better than Memphis going into the game, but he told his team, like, he knew they were going to win. There was just something about the way they prepped, how they were, the days leading up to it. There was so much hype in Memphis, as you well know. You can talk plenty about that game because you were there to experience it, but there was something in him that told him that they were going to win the game and it was going to mean something significant for the state of the program. Pearl's done amazing things at Auburn. He's the best coach in that school's history already. He didn't tell me he thinks they're going to beat Alabama, obviously, but he said the things that it meant for Tennessee back then to get that win and become a number 1 team for the first time ever. If we can beat Alabama in this setting, in this game, like, it can give our program, our school, just that little bit extra here on what could be a super special season.
That number 1 versus number 2 Memphis, Tennessee was something people around here will talk about forever. I mean, game day was here. It was popping. It was a party all day long. I mean, it was like game day early in the morning, and then it was a prime time tip on ESPN. So everybody got downtown at like 6:30, 7 in the morning, and just stayed. And the whole, for people who've never been to downtown Memphis FedEx Forum, I mean, it's right on Beale Street. I mean, everything is right there. And it was just one of the really great days in Memphis basketball history up until the point where the game started. And then it was an ugly game. I don't know if you remember it. It was an ugly game. And Tennessee won it. And there was this clip to sort of back up what Bruce said. There used to be, I think it was called Jillian's, but it's more or less, think of David Buster's in downtown Memphis. And there was like a Tennessee fan, rally type thing pregame. Because there's obviously a lot of Tennessee alums and Tennessee fans in Memphis. And so Bruce was speaking to them. And this is, I don't guess it's necessarily pre-phones on your camera, but it was, not everybody had the type of phones they have on their walking around with.
It was just a grainy situation. I think there was phone camera technology capable back then, but different age altogether. Yes.
Anyway, there was a video that surfaced from that rally where Bruce Pearl is talking to the Tennessee fans, and he's doing one of his speeches, and I can't remember the quote exactly, but it's something along the lines of, "And we're going to go kick their ass," and everybody, yeah, and it's like, wow, undefeated Memphis, you're on the road. It's Derrick Rose and Chris Douglas Roberts. You're going to kick their ass. And then they went and won the game. It was a awesome weekend. Also because like every national media member came here, and I was oh buddy, we had a late night on that Friday.
I bet.
So, hey, once the Saturday night game was over, everybody was like, hey, we're going to bed. Nobody needs to try to go out and do that again. But it was a wonderful weekend, and this is going to be similar for Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It's not too far from me. It's much closer than you. I can get to Alabama. I can get to University of Alabama way quicker than I can get to the University of Tennessee. So if I were in town, I would have just popped on down. But as soon as I get through talking to you, I'm headed right back to the airport. So I'll be watching it from the CBS Broadcast Center. I'll be in studio all day Saturday for CBS Sports Network. But it's just going to be fabulous. And what I love most about it, I think, it would be great if this were number 1 Kentucky versus number 2 Arkansas. Actually, that would be amazing. All things considered.
You got on an on-ramp there and you realized actually that would be
Okay. I started going and I was like, okay, I took the wrong. Let me rephrase. It would be amazing if it was like number 1 Kentucky versus number 2 Tennessee. Right?
Yeah, sure.
What I like in part about this one is it's football school Alabama and football school Auburn. For decades, people be like, well, that's a football school. You can't do this at a football school. They'd almost like make you pick. It reminded me like when I was in college. They said, hey, you're going to be a journalist? I said, I hope so. They said, well, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be everything. I didn't say that. I didn't consider it. I said, I want to be a writer. I want to be a writer. I want to be a columnist someday. They said, okay. And I never took a radio class and I never took a television class because it was like, well, you can't do everything. Yeah. You know, you just do this one thing. Can't do everything. Well, now look at me now. And look at Auburn now. Alabama now. They didn't settle into this mindset of we're going to prioritize football over everything. Like, sure, football is the most important thing and forever will be. But they made basketball matter. They invested. And you know what they did? Here's the key. Yes, they invested in money. They hired two of the best coaches working. Two of the best college basketball coaches alive work at Auburn and Alabama. And that is how you get to this place. And I hope Bruce and Nate can both take the time to enjoy that. Like, they have created this moment. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but they've created a moment that was probably unimaginable for these fan bases once upon a time. They've created this moment, Nate and Bruce, and I hope they can, you know, I don't know if they're best friends or not, but I hope they can have a moment pregame where they just sort of look around and go, man, look at this. We did this, because they did this.
I think they can. And, you know, there's been a comment or two in the chat. I get it. We're not going to legislate rivalries and all that stuff. But I said, you know, maybe Auburn, Alabama is the biggest football rivalry out there. I get you, Michigan, Ohio State. The thing is, as Bruce Pearl has mentioned frequently and did to me, there are no pro sports teams in Alabama. Yeah. These teams share a state. They share borders. So I get it. So there's also that element to it as well. And to bring in even more, published the story on Wednesday in the court report, and I got a call from Bruce, and he goes, "You got to fix that story, man." I was like, "What did I do now?" I was like, "Don't tell me I misquoted you, because I didn't." He's like, "No, you got Auburn winning the game last year. We won that game." I was like, "All right." I was like, "You're sure?" He's like, "Yeah. We won the game last year." I was like, "Okay." I was like, No. I'm like, "You're sure?" Like I had it wrong in the story. It's like, yeah. So even to that point, just, you know, always appreciate a good fact check. Right. I had to write Auburn, Alabama like 79 times, and you're trying to get every so the one that I don't get.
Oh, you don't even know. You just missaid it a second ago.
Oh, did I really? Exactly. So exactly. That's just one thing after another. Exactly. Yeah. So, but the point is, I appreciate that he wanted to read it. Yeah. He shared it on social media. Yeah. But him and Nate have I think him and Nate have a genuine respect and even like a decent amount of camaraderie. But that story was up, I want to say, an hour, and Bruce got to, he's like, "You got to fix that story, man. The score is wrong in there." So I appreciated the edit and the fact check there. And this is, man, and I had a few more things in it. Nada, let's just try and link it in the pod description after. I'd love everyone to go read it. See the history of number 1 versus number 2. Like, everything is in there. I love this stuff. But like the Auburn and Alabama fan base is extremely online. Like in football, that's always been the case, but it does feel like in the past half decade, they have taken up the basketball cause as well. I know this all too well because of the fact that because Bruce gave me crap for it again, for where I ranked Auburn in the preseason. He's like, you know, don't know how Saturday is going to go, but I don't think we're going to be 27th. And I was like, I got it, man. I apologize on camera, on HQ, in your face in Maui. I got it. We're good. So I'll take it the whole way. The fact that these fan bases have really engaged on it as well it's been awesome. I hope we get a really, really good game. Nada, flick on the mic real quick here, because that is our poll question, and I don't know the results because I can't see them as we're talking here. The poll question today was pick one of the 4 outcomes. Auburn wins by 6 or fewer, which has been, you know, as I said before, 43% of the time we've had a 1 versus 2 be decided by 6 or fewer. There's Auburn or Alabama by 6 or fewer, or either team winning by 7 or fewer. In order, Nada, what is the poll result situation here 40 minutes into the show?
So we have Auburn by 6 or fewer leading the poll at 40%. Alabama by 6 or fewer, 37%. Auburn by 7 plus, 14%. And Alabama by 7 plus, 9%.
Okay, so the least likely for our audience is that Alabama can run away with it, or however you want to define that. And the most likely is Auburn wins close. We're going to pick it in the final 4 and 1, so you got to wait a couple more minutes before we get there. But that is intriguing. I would agree, and I would think GP would as well. That's 77% of our live audience saying that this game is going to be within 2 possessions when we hit triple zeros. Without giving away your pick, GP, would you agree with that? We're going to pick it close.
I mean, I hope so, but I mean, who the hell knows? It's a basketball game. I mean,
Alabama has scored 100 plus 7 times this season, so who the hell knows?
I mean, we've seen Final Four games you get decided by a billion points. Like I assume it will be a close game between 2 of the best teams in the country. But, you know, Alabama comes out and knocks down 14 3-pointers, and it won't be. And then keep in mind, Auburn's been playing a lot of the best teams in the country all year long and beating their brains in all year long. So
I know.
Let me ask you one more thing before we move on, and then we'll pick the game in the final 4 and 1. I know you mentioned that one thing that won't change is even if Alabama wins this game, Auburn would be the projected number 1 overall seed on Sunday. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think that's still the case.
I think that is also still the case. But for my purposes, top 25 and 1, would I have to at least consider that suddenly Auburn would be 13 and 3 in quadrant 1 and Alabama would be 9 and 3 in quadrant 1. There's a difference there. But they would both have 16 victories inside the first 2 quadrants. So they would both be 16 and 3 inside the first 2 quadrants. You fan it out a little bit and it evens up. Auburn still would have a pretty significant advantage in quadrant 1. Auburn would also at that point be 1 and 2 in its past 3 games. So if you care about how somebody's playing, there's that. And Auburn would be 0 and 1 against the team that would theoretically replace them. How do you balance all that?
So I don't do the top 25 and 1. If I did, I would do it a little bit.
I wish you would. I wish you would.
I wish you would. Yeah. But Parrish, if Alabama wins on Saturday, you have to put them number 1. You have to. It is too close, and I understand that Alabama has the home floor, but Alabama is going to be the number 2 overall seed when we get to Saturday. I think it is close enough, and with the recency effect, I'm telling you, you need to. When I talked to Oates earlier this week, like he takes all social media, every single thing off his phone. He doesn't have his computer in season. You need to pull a Nate Oates in that respect. You need to delete all social media. If you keep Auburn number 1, do not resurface on social media until March. I'm just telling you, you need to go Alabama.
It is one of it, and you're exactly right for the exact right reasons. Because I could sit down with anybody in this world and explain intelligently why you really should just keep Auburn at number 1. But it will be hard for the people on Twitter to understand.
You're done.
I can explain it to you in great detail, and when I'm done, you'll say, "Okay, GP, I get it." But without that, you're just going to call me an idiot who looks like a penis. That's all I'm going to hear on Twitter. I'm going to be an idiot who doesn't know ball and looks like a penis. A slightly smaller penis than I was when we took those pictures that Nada loves to put up on the screen.
He doesn't first of all, he's trying to help out with the graphic. Okay.
I would rather it just be you by yourself than that picture up there.
Fair enough. Now we know.
Yeah.
Nada, next time, just have it be me.
Hey, if you guys wake up on Sunday and start calling me a penis on Twitter, all right, at least acknowledge that I'm a slightly smaller penis than I used to be. Look at me.
That's right. You're thinning out.
I used to be a penis. I used to be a penis.
Okay, let's keep it moving here. We don't need to get too descriptive. Earmuffs, the kids out there to the show. All right, you want to pick some games?
I think so. It's time for the Final 4 and 1 presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. We'll do that next. First, let's get one more word from our partners.
One of golf's elite courses, Quail Hollow, hosts the game's top players at the PGA Championship this May on CBS.
That's right. It's time for the Final 4 and 1 presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. This, of course, is where we pick the weekend's top games or whatever games we want. And these are the most experty picks available on the internet. We put a ton of thought into this. We handicap games. I'm trying to be humble. We handicap games better than anybody else, probably.
We don't. It's not what you're saying right now. This isn't remotely true.
No, I think it's true. And if you're wondering then, Well, then why do you both have losing records on the season? That's because sometimes the teams don't do what they're supposed to do, and that's not our fault. All right.
Gosh.
Sometimes the teams suck in a way that they shouldn't, and that's more or less when we lose our games. So hopefully this weekend the teams do what they're supposed to do, and if they do, I'm going 5-0 probably. Just the team's got to do what they're supposed to do.
By the way,
I love it when people get so mad about our picks.
I know. I honestly never see it. If they do, that's whatever. We did intentionally. Not intentionally on GP's part, but it was intentionally from my end. 5 games. I think this might be the first time this season. 5 games from the 5 high majors. So 1 game per power conference.
My updated record is 31-38-1. Yours is 33-36-1.
I got 2 up on you.
I know, but I'm coming for you. This is a 5-0 week. These are expert picks. I want them branded that way. These are expert picks we're about to give you. Game 1, Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern. It's number 16, Wisconsin, at number 7, Purdue, inside Zach Edey Arena. You can watch it on CBS. It's America's most watched network. It's the network of stars. KenPom has it Purdue -5. How you going to act?
I'm going to pick this game in just a second. I said on the Wednesday show with KB, I talked about how Mike Boynton hit me up, the assistant at Michigan, and told me that Braden Smith is the second best college point guard he's ever had to coach against. Now, he hasn't coached against every single college point guard over the past 15 years, but the CBS Sports college basketball social media team posted that. And I'm not going to lie, I'm getting cooked. It wasn't my opinion, but in the comments, people love to hate Braden Smith. People love to hate the best player on Purdue with regularity. Something about the team. I don't know. Zach Edey was too big.
He's too tall. He's just tall. Zach Edey's just too tall. He's just tall. That's all he is. He's just tall.
So that was the fallout from that was interesting. Braden Smith is incredible. He's number 3 for player of the year right now. I don't think there's any argument against it. Purdue at home in this spot. You said the number is 5. Purdue's coming off the loss to Michigan on the road. Oilers are 19-6. Have lost at home this season. Lost to Ohio State. That was a D-Blurred situation there. I will trust Matt Painter. Purdue wins. They went with a little bit of space here. Keep in mind, Wisconsin, top 10 offense in the country. Best free throw shooting team in the country, by the way. If it's close late, perhaps an advantage there for Bucky, because Purdue's only making 72.4% of its foul shots. That's middle of the road. But I'll ride with the Boilermakers. They win. They cover the 5.
Let's not waste any time. Everybody knows I'm 46% Boilermaker. I'll take Purdue -5.
I think you're down to no. You're down to 42%. You shed some weight, man. You're 42% Boilermaker now.
I'm not as much Boilermaker as I was last year, just because I can't handle it. I can't handle it.
That's right.
And that's why these are expert picks. I believe Purdue will cover that number tomorrow, because I am personally 42% Boilermaker. Game 2, Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Number 6, Houston, at number 13, Arizona, inside the Larnell Center. You can watch it on ESPN. KenPom's got it. Houston -2. Kelvin Sampson on the road inside the Larnell Center. Woo.
Saturday. This is just awesome stuff, man. Reminder, Parrish is in studio, CBS Sports Network. I'll be in studio in Stamford, Connecticut for CBS Sports HQ. So as you watch the games, keep your eyes on your boys here. Plenty to get to. This is Houston favored on the road. Arizona just got knocked off by Kansas State on the road earlier this week. Meantime, Houston just been chilling inside the top 3 at KenPom since we got to 2025. NBD. Only loss was at home in OT to Texas Tech when Grant McCaslin and JT Top weren't even in the game. Houston won, by the way. I mentioned this on the Wednesday show real quick, but Houston won at home over Baylor by 11. Baylor shot 58% from the field and lost the game. You dream to shoot 58% against Houston. And you do that and you still lose. What a ball club, man. What a ball club. And the thing I love about Houston is the thing I love about Houston every single year. They just have one guy after another. There is a mentality. There is a force of will and a mental makeup with Houston where it can be Jawan Roberts as much as it can be Milos Uzan, as much as it can be Emmanuel Sharp, as much as it can be JoJo Tugler. They just, every single game, it's 1 or 2 guys that are just finding a way to kill you, man. They are a force. This is an awesome game. It's obviously overshadowed by Alabama, Arkansas, but this game is incredible. Arizona, coming off the loss of Kansas State, has 2 losses since December 14th. This may, in effect, be the thing that decides the Big 12 race. Arizona only has to play Kansas and only has to play Houston once this conference season. I think that's a big swing and a miss by the Big 12 scheduling office. Don't know why in the hell you would do that, but regardless, the Kansas game is on the road to close the regular season, and here they get the Cougars at home. I'm going to pick one side, and I think I'm wrong here. I will take Arizona to win at home and to win straight up, but fully acknowledging that this could be a huge whiff, and Houston goes in, punches him in the mouth, and it's a TKO pretty decisively. But I'll go with Tommy Lloyd's team.
You had Arizona in your top 16. I did not, but I mean, obviously the way they flipped this is incredible. 17-7 after starting 4-5, 13-2 in their past 15 games. Just one game back of Houston in the loss column of the Big 12 standings right now. So Arizona wins this, and both the Wildcats and Cougars would be tied atop the Big 12 standings with 12-2 records in the league, 6 games left. I'm a building truster. You know that about me.
You've always trusted buildings more than Kelvin Sampson. I do know that about you.
That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough. That's a tough situation to put Kelvin Sampson up against a building.
Yeah.
As a self-proclaimed, I identify as a building truster, and so to have Kelvin Sampson up, this is tough, man. But I'm a building truster. I will take Arizona plus the points.
Everyone should run to go take Houston right now.
So if you're keeping up, I'm trying to keep up in real time. My expert picks so far, I'm taking Purdue because I'm 42% Boilermaker. I'm taking Arizona because I'm a building truster. Game 3 Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Here it is. Number 1 Auburn at number 2 Alabama. Inside Jalen Hurts Coliseum. I think he deserves it. You can watch it on ESPN. Sure. I think he deserves it. You can watch it on ESPN. I ain't the one that ran him out of there. I think he deserves it. I ain't the one that ran a Super Bowl champion out of there.
Yes or no? Thumbs up, thumbs down. The fact they still do the Jalen Hurts. You just won the Super Bowl. What are you going to do next? I'm going to Disney World. That's been a thing since I was 6.
Right.
Yeah. A thumbs up, thumbs down. That's still being a thing.
It is still a thing, but I'm against it.
Has it run its course, or should it still be a thing?
It's just, no, it shouldn't be a thing, because if I won a Super Bowl, the last thing I'd want to do on the planet is get up tomorrow and go to Disney World. Are you out of your mind? You ever been to Disney World?
Norlander fact, I used to live like 3 miles from Disney World when I was a young boy. I lived in Kissimmee, Florida. So I have been to Disney World probably a half dozen times in my life. I have never been back. We are not Disney people. Listen, I have one of my closest friends married into that Disney lifestyle, and they go every year. There is a dedicated faction of our population that lives for that stuff.
Yeah.
Go knock yourselves out.
That's right.
That could not be less for me if you forced me. And I told my wife when we had our kids, we have not gone. I said, I'll do one. You get one. We still haven't gone. My boys have not asked. If they don't ask, we're never going. Right. I don't need it. It's not for me. I know a lot of people literally live for this stuff. I don't get it. More power to you if you do, but no.
You do.
You're not going to find me. I'm being taken there as means of a compromise if you ever see me on that property.
As you become a parent, you do a long list of things that you would never otherwise do. And spending time at Disney World is, for me at least, one of those things. I mean, I used to go cover basketball tournaments at Disney World. Like, I'm in Disney World, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to the Magic Kingdom today.
I actually went to a wedding. Now that you're saying it, one of my wife's cousins, the husband, worked for Disney, and so they got married on property. That was like 2012. That was the last time I was there. Now that you bring that up, yeah. Yeah,
so I don't need it for me, but it is kind of cool to take your kids if they want to go. Like, my kids wanted to go. They, like, literally asked. And so all of my children have been multiple times. But that is the last thing I'd want to do if I just won a Super Bowl. I don't know what's more exhausting, a full day at Disney World or playing the Chiefs. I think it might be easier playing the Chiefs than it is doing a whole day at Disney World the day after playing the Chiefs. I'd skip it. I'd be like, Jalen Hurts, you just won the Super Bowl. where are you going? I'd be like, buddy, I'm going to party with my teammates, and then I'm going to crash out for a little while. Not set an alarm. I'll see you guys at the parade. Yeah, I would quit that if I were them, but it seems to, I guess it works.
We got someone in the chat saying Disney World destroyed my marriage.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I will say we went for Christmas one year, and it was the worst decision I've ever made in my life. Okay? That was awful. All right? We went for Halloween one year, and it was amazing.
Okay.
Halloween was amazing. Christmas, I was ready to end it.
Oh, we got to pick this game. Hold on. I got a trivia time.
Okay.
I got a trivia time. Danko Season on Blue Sky hit me up. He said, all that's left to answer, how far between the two schools, the two Alabama towns, as the crow flies? We do the Duke, North Carolina. It's 9 miles if you forgot. I think it's 9. All right, trivia time. Can you get it in 3 guesses? I'll give you the over under after your first one. How many miles as the crow flies from Auburn, Alabama to Tuscaloosa?
I have no concept for this. It's not close. I don't think it's close. Like Auburn, the misconception about Auburn that people don't get is how close it is to Atlanta.
Yes. Yeah. You fly into Atlanta, you drive to Auburn. It's still like over an hour, but yes, that's what you do.
Yeah, but it's pretty close to Atlanta. I don't know. I don't even want to say a stupid number. I have no.
Just give a number, and I'll tell you whether it's more or less. See if you can get it close to 3.
104.
More.
105.
More.
105.5.
It's 128 miles as the crow flies.
That feels about right.
And Shulman, if you're listening, I want to hear that dropped on stage.
Come on, Dan. Don't let us down.
Don't let us down, man. 128 miles as the crow flies. Please. Yeah. Please do it. We got to pick this game, don't we? What's the number?
Auburn -2.
I am going to go to Alabama on the road against Texas. Now, Texas is not Auburn. Let's be clear about that. But it was on the road. Alabama shot 17 of 29 from three-point range. When's the last time a team made at least 17 three-pointers with 30 or fewer attempts? I mean, that's ridiculous. And they actually had not been shooting that well. Oach told me earlier this week, he's like, I hope this can have some real carryover because, a lot of our team for, the past few weeks, like we just haven't been shooting it the way that I want. I think it meant both in game and in practice. They're going to need to hear. Auburn's going to try. Auburn's well balanced on both sides, and it's the best team in the country so far to this point. Auburn's got the number 1 offense in the country, but it doesn't need to have a game to get to 90. Like Alabama wants to get this game into the 90s. I think Auburn is more trying to angle. All right, can we slow them down, keep them in the 70s, and get the win that way? I will go home team here. I will go Bama, number 2, although Bama is number 1 in the coaches poll, by the way. And the last time we had a number 1 versus number 2 matchup where both teams were actually number 1, where one was in coaches and one was in AP, that was 2016. Triple OT legendary status. Oklahoma at Kansas. Buddy Hield goes for 46 in one of the best regular season games in the history of the sport. You give us at least 1 overtime here, and I'll be over the moon. I will go Bama. Close. I think Auburn is able to keep the Tide from hitting. Tide leads the country in points per game, 90.5. Auburn's number 1 in offensive efficiency. Alabama is number 2 in offensive efficiency. But I think Auburn's defense is going to be good enough to slow it down a little bit here. I'll say something like 84-80 in that range. So give me Bama to win and straight up here because Auburn's favored right now.
Tough situation for me here. On one hand, I identify as a building truster, right? And this is the second straight game where I can get a building as an underdog. Woo! That's a good thing. I like getting buildings as underdogs. On the other hand, Nate Oates has, according to you, deleted all social media. There's no chance he'll even know what we're doing. All right. He'll never see this, never hear about this.
That I wouldn't be so sure of, but continue.
If we both pick against Auburn again, because we've done it already.
Okay.
And they've embarrassed us multiple times this year.
Nada's asking in our private chat what happened to not picking against Auburn. I said I would not pick against them until Auburn lost. Auburn lost last weekend, so now I'm free to do it. I'm doing it. Okay, here I can't have a graphic out there floating around with both of us picking Alabama over Auburn. Nate will never see it, but BP will quote tweet it. Okay. All right.
So I'm taking Auburn minus the 2. I'm just trying to avoid getting quote tweeted by Bruce Pearl. I'm not picking on.
I might suggest just staying clear of Bruce Pearl's posting in general. If you can dodge it, you're in a good spot. Yes, I agree with you.
I don't want to get quote tweeted. We both took Ole Miss over Auburn a few weeks ago. Remember how that went for us?
Oh, I know. I'm well aware.
Fool me once, shame on however that goes. I'm taking Auburn minus the 2. Game 4, Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Number 24, Creighton at number 9, St. John's inside Rick Pitino Garden.
Of course.
I named the garden after Rick Pitino. You can watch this on FS1. Kim Pom's got it St. John's minus 6.
You know, I can picture Rick Pitino doing a lot of things. One thing I can't picture him doing is gardening. That's an image I just can't. I can't conjure up in my
Somebody
mind.
get that image, Rick Pitino. Out
No green
planting
thumb.
tulips.
No green thumb. Getting.
What if you went to Rick Pitino's home to like have a sit down with him, and just at some point he's like, "Hey Matt, you come outside and check out my garden."
I know.
Wouldn't that make you laugh?
Yo, feel this tomato right here. Just squeeze this tomato. Tell me that's not plump.
Come look at my jalapenos.
Okay.
Look at Rick Pitino was
What
growing
was that word? Can you say that again for me, please?
jalapenos.
Okay, the way the Pitino impression combined with the pronunciation of the jalapenos there.
I was not
Drifting
trying
into
to,
a realm.
I was not trying to impersonate Rick Pitino, but I do have a Mississippi accent mixed with Mexican blood running through my veins.
Okay.
So
Sure.
that's what happened. The Mexican blood's running through my veins.
Yeah, man. I don't doubt it for a second. St. John's is 12-2 in the Big East. Creighton is 11-3. St. John's was picked off on the road Wednesday night, 73-71 against Villanova. Really fun ending. We talked about that on the Wednesday show with KB. I have to go St. John's in this spot. Creighton has these two teams combined. Let's see. St. John's is 16-2 in its past 18, and then Creighton is what? They are 11-2 in the past 13. So yeah, we're looking at 27-4 overall, past 31 games. They've been awesome. These have been the two best teams in the Big East with, Marquette and UConn in different respects and shouting distance there. But I will go with the Johnnies. I'll go with that defense. I think Pitino is building out to something special, and I think that St. John's will reinforce its placement in the bracket reveal on Saturday, and remind everyone why it's on its way to its best season in 3+ decades.
Yeah, I mean, I can't pick against St. John's here. Bounce back game, coming off of a loss in the Garden. It'll be packed. Like, it's all set. This is one. It's a basketball game, and Greg's done a great job with this Creighton team, but this is one where I could see it. If we looked up and it got away from him, I could envision that. I'll take St. John's. I'll lay the 6 points. What's the and one?
The and one Saturday, 60s again, 5 games, all 5 high major leagues, even the ACC. Yes, still qualifies technically.
Yeah.
Saturday, 6 Eastern on ACC Network. Wake Forest at SMU on John Koncak Court. Now, I'm familiar with Mr. Koncak. Are you familiar with Mr. Koncak?
I feel like I know that name, but I can't place it right now.
Okay, I say what he was a basketball player. He was a basketball player. I say John Koncak. You think he played for what team? What team springs to mind? Nothing.
UMass Lowell.
Atlanta Hawks. Regardless, what I genuinely didn't know this. Just a player here, a player there, just slips through the cracks. John Koncak played for SMU. Not only did he play for SMU, he is the program's all-time leader in blocks with 278, all-time leader in field goal percentage, 559, third all-time in points with 1,784, and leads the team all-time in rebounds, 1,169. So John Koncak, you're getting the court named after you on the Eye on College Basketball Podcast 100% all the way. And I'm picking this game because it is bubble-tastic right now, Parrish. Wake Forest lost at home to Florida State. Can't do that, man. That game was a disaster. I know that you were on the road. In fact, well, hold on. You know what? Nada, I sent it to you. Bring it up. We're going to pick this game. I have to ask what's going on here. Parrish was at a wonderful game on Wednesday night. Texas Tech beats Arizona State, double overtime. Incredible stuff. Watching on YouTube here. We've got what do you know? We have a monitor review.
Yes.
And it's 3 zebras, and then off to the right, it's Parrish is like, "What's up, boo? What are you doing here?"
I am eavesdropping to try to see if I can find out what they're going to do before they actually announce it and feed it back to our team. So I'm trying to get the scoop, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the problem, if you want some inside whatever stuff, when you're a sideline reporter, you have you have a mic, obviously, and then what's called a talkback button. And you hit this button, and you can talk back to the producer and say, "Hey, I've got it. Their possession staying with Texas Tech, or it's going to Arizona State." And then they can feed it, or he can say, "Okay, I'm going to tell them we're going to send it back to you," and then they'll tell Jordan Kent, and Jordan will be like, "And now we'll go down to GP with more." And my talkback button broke at some point in overtime, and I could no longer communicate with my producer. So what I'm doing there is trying to figure out what the officials are going to do so that I can tell my producer what happened. In actually, I couldn't talk to my producer. I couldn't tell him anything. I was blind, or at least voiceless, for much of overtime because my talkback button broke and I couldn't communicate with anybody. But I was trying. That's me trying right there. And what a game. You mentioned JT Toppin earlier, 41 points, 15 rebounds, outrageous. The arena, great.
It was an awesome watch, man.
It was like,
I love that you got that game. Like, it was a semi-random game. Arizona State not projected to make the tournament. You get the call, you do sideline here, and you just get gifted with one of the 5 most chaotic games we've had the entire season. I was really happy for you there.
It was no, I was glad to be there. Like, you know, my producer on the Gary Parrish show, he was like, "Yeah, I was watching, and I was feeling bad for you because I know it just keeps you up later." And I was like, "Man, I could have done 7 overtimes. That was a blast. I wish I had a talkback button, obviously, but yeah, just being there. You know, I don't do that much anymore. Like, I sit in a studio. I don't go to games too often anymore. So it was nice just to be in an arena, to be at shoot arounds, spent time with Grant McCaslin, spent time with Bobby Hurley. They were both terrific. I could not have had a better time in Lubbock. I enjoyed it and can't wait to get back someday.
I don't want to get off track. We're going to pick this game, but I do love the fact that on the same night that we got this,
2 rings, Baldy.
The same night we got 2 rings, Baldy. Kyle Boone thought that he brought it up on the show.
2 rings.
Is this you?
2 rings, Baldy.
Where were? Because this was the night, but I guess this was the night before. So you were at the game the night after, but you were with the other Hurley when that. It was just we had a.
I was with Bobby. I was nowhere near Danny. I promise you. I was with Bobby, but nowhere near Danny.
2 rings, Baldy, is just
so good.
It's
like I love. You pointed this out on Twitter. Like, Dan being bald, calling somebody else bald is what makes it hilarious. But I do this. I have one friend that I play golf with, and he's like a half inch shorter than me. All right, and I am constantly calling him names. I'm like, you little B. You little short ass B. Just constantly talking down to him like I'm 6'6". But it's nice. You walk around this height, you don't get a chance to like talk down to people too often. But I can him, so I do it regularly. I enjoy it. I understood what Dan was doing there.
Classic.
Your ball.
Won't get old, man. Will not get old. John Koncak has now just pointed out to me, known as John Contract. He was the first player to ever get like a significant deal, like more than $1 million a year. And he was like a just okay player. So he was the first player where people were like, they're paying this dude how much to play basketball? And now his contract that he got is not even like the veteran minimum practically anymore. Kind of wild. But the court is named after him. This is our N1. KenPom has the game. Wake Forest at SMU. SMU -7. The Ponies right now 19-5, 38 at KenPom. Don't have a great tournament resume despite this. This is really it really is an indictment on the ACC that you could have a 19-5 team in your league and it is not comfortably in the field right now. But it is a super compelling bubble game, and I do think it has very significant consequences for the team that loses and the team that wins. Ponies are -7 at KenPom. Who are you taking?
To just illustrate what you're saying about SMU's resume, 14 of their wins are outside of the first 2 quadrants. They're 9-0 in quadrant 3, 5-0 in quadrant 4, 0-4 in quadrant 1. They still have 0 quadrant 1 wins. I'll take Wake Forest plus the points. That's a pretty big number. I'll take Wake Forest. And man, they need it too. Like, this is last season, kind of they were playing in this same sort of place, weren't they?
Yeah, they beat Duke, the court storm, almost killed Kyle Filipowski, and then they wound up spoiling it down the stretch and didn't make the tournament. Forbes has had some seasons where they've finished well in terms of win total. They just haven't broken through. It's been Wake Forest over the past 3 seasons has averaged like 22 wins per season, but they have not made the tournament.
Yeah, I'll take Wake plus the points.
Okay, I will take. We picked against SMU, or no, we picked SMU, I think, to cover against Duke, and then that was not even close. That game was in Dallas. I will side with you as well. I'm going to stick with what I had here before we started the show. I will also have Wake inside the number. I would take SMU to win straight up. Demon Deacons, man, you got to show up. You got to give us a competitive game here. That is 6 Eastern ACC Network. Real quick tour on Saturday. The other games to know. Noon Eastern, you get it going with Arkansas, Texas A&M. Then you switch over at 12:30 for the bracket preview show on CBS. Finish it up with Arkansas and A&M at noon Eastern on ESPN. 1 Eastern SEC Network, Vandy at Tennessee. Just see if Vanderbilt can give them a game. In-state, we never know. We'll see on that. Texas Tech is at Oklahoma State. 3 Eastern on ESPN Plus. It feels like there's going to be a weird result, and I'm not saying Oklahoma State will win. Just have a weird feeling about that one. Mizzou at Georgia, 3:30 Eastern, SEC Network. Georgia has to get a win here sometime, folks. Talk about a 12-team, 13-bid SEC in the NCAA tournament. Well, eventually, like your Oklahomas, your Georgias, your Texases, they're going to need to win these games. So that is a very, very urgent game for Mike White's team at 3:30 on Saturday. You've got Mississippi State at Ole Miss. 6 Eastern on ESPN2. Pretty good game there, GP. That's a good battle between 2 teams that are relatively close to each other from a resume perspective. Obviously, Chris Beard's Rebels are a slight step ahead. Michigan State is at Illinois, 8 Eastern on Saturday on Fox. Michigan State lost at home to Indiana earlier this week. Now they got to go play an Illinois team that can be a bit unpredictable, but that's a good matchup. Also at 8 Eastern, Kentucky at Texas. Texas, you got Kentucky on your home floor. Gonna get this done? Rodney Terry's seat is definitely hot. That's an urgent situation. Kansas State at BYU is an ESPN Plus game, but that is effectively a bubble game. Cougars have that game at home. A significant result there. We have now hit bubble watch season, no doubt about it. Boise State at San Diego State is your 10 Eastern CBS Sports Network game. Maybe the most underrated tilt of the night, of the day, of Saturday in general. That's a good one to watch as well. Kansas plays at Utah at 10 Eastern on ESPN on Saturday. And then Sunday, we've got Memphis on the road against Wichita State at noon on ESPN. Michigan is at Ohio State, 1 Eastern on CBS. Creighton St. John's, as GP mentioned, just a reminder, that is a Sunday tip at 3. Utah State at New Mexico is a 4 Eastern game on CBS Sports Network. That's an awesome Mountain West matchup between 2 teams tracking to the tournament. And then Maryland, which got its win just last night, looking pretty damn good. Hosts Iowa, should be able to get that W. All around, just fantastic. And tonight, by the way, UCLA plays against Indiana. So see if the Hoosiers are in a decent spot right now. They can win that game with a lame duck coach. Indiana would be in the projected tournament field if it can win that game. So that's your one to watch on Friday night. There's also, by the way, there is one more game tonight that I want to bring up because I'm going to it. Sacred Heart GP, just a couple of exits away from where I live. Quinnipiac at Sacred Heart in the MAC, baby. Sacred Heart's on a roll. I'm bringing my wife and kids. This is what we are doing. Hey, on Valentine's, Sacred Heart. Why not? Won 5 in a row, going up against the Quinnipiac team. That's dropped a couple as of late, but 10-3 in the MAC. It's good. I like to bring my boys. We're within driving range of Sacred Heart, Fairfield. Quinnipiac's probably like 40 away, and then Yale's probably 30 to 35. So basically, since the pandemic wrapped, I try to bring them to at least one Division I game. We haven't gone yet this season. This is really the only time left to squeeze it in. So we'll take in some MAC ball on Friday night. What your Friday night is going to be in New York City, right? Not so.
My wife and I are about to get on a plane.
Okay, she's going with you. That's what I like to hear. Let's go.
She's going with me. We will go see a Broadway show tonight called English. It won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama in 2023. It's now on Broadway with the original cast. So we'll go see that, and then we'll have a nice late dinner, and then I'll be on CBS Sports HQ bright and early, and then into the CBS Broadcast Center, CBS Sports Network all day long. It's going to be a full weekend.
Have a wonderful, have a great Valentine's night in New York City. I took my wife out for her birthday not so long ago, and we had a great time. So glad to see that you're doing that. And then we'll be back Sunday night, time to be determined, but we'll have the full on Rapid show on Sunday.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle, legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching. listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. More of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So please do that. We'll talk to you again on Sunday. Till then, take care.